Thank you for joining us again for Let the Bible Speak. You know the number is at the bottom of the screen, 843-553-5157. If you have questions, if you want Bible materials, if you want an in-person Bible study, listen to the recording, and then leave a brief message letting us know what your desires are, and we will follow up with you. Still in First John. I've been here for the last several days, certainly. We're in chapter 5, and I'd like to talk to us about this subject of commandment keeping. Do we really have to keep commandments? In the Old Testament, certainly they had to keep the commandments. They had what many are familiar with were the Ten Commandments, and then there was another 300 plus commandments that they had to follow. And that's captured in, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. You come into the bulk of the Old Testament as they were living their lives. They were living under the law, which was known as the law of Moses. And yes, they certainly had to keep the commandments. And there was strict punishment when you fail to keep the commandments. You come now into the new covenant, the law of grace. And some have questioned whether or not, is commandment keeping really a big thing? And John reveals to us that, well, it sort of is. In First John chapter 5, verses 2 and 3, he says, by this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments. And so the first thing we see is that by keeping God's commandment, that this is evidence to the fact that I actually love God and love the children of God. And certainly we have other passages that echo that. John 14, verse 15, Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments. I'll put these extra scriptures in the description for this video link. But that was John 14, verse 15. And then the flip side of that is John 15 and verse 14, where Jesus says, you are my friends indeed if you do whatsoever I command. And so you have these passages just sort of layered, and God expects that. But the thing to note is that by keeping God's command, it says something about me. It says something about my faith. It says something about whether I love God. It says something about whether I love the children of God. So do we really have to keep it? Well, only if we actually love God. And then he says, verse 3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. This is the love of God. To show your love for God, you do exactly what he says. That really sounds like we have to keep his commandments. But you add to that sort of latter piece where he says that his commandments are not burdensome. There are those who really believe the things that God asks man to do today is difficult. But that's because we live in these bodies, the flesh, and the flesh yearns to sin. It yearns after various desires and passions and lusts and lewd behavior. And a person has to say no to that. God is not saying you can be my child, just stay as you are. He's saying that in order to be my child, you have to change. And here's the commandments that you need to follow that will allow this change to take place, this transformation. And so, do we really have to, mom and dad? That's what kids say to their mom. I really have to do it, mama? Now, when I was growing up, we didn't say that. That'd be pretty dangerous. But do we really have to do it? And the answer is yes. But I'll end with this thought. If you're asking that question, that is the wrong question to ask, because it almost sounds like you don't want to do it. It shouldn't be I do it because I really have to. It should be that I'm a servant of the Most High God. That's the way I view myself. I do it because I really want to please my Father, to honor my Lord, to be in lockstep with Him, so that God gets the glory. That's our time. Join us again tomorrow for Let the Bible Speak. Thanks.